There's a story, going back probably about a year and a half ago now, some teenagers in Pennsylvania who were shoveling people's driveways and sidewalks after a big snowstorm, just going door to door and offering, charge whatever they were charging. And they shoveled up and they move on to the next house. And the police came and basically told them to stop because they didn't have a license. Yeah, obviously you can't have people engaging in voluntary exchange without a license. You need to have approval from the glorious state. Uh, so the teens actually they listened, they stopped, they didn't continue on with their business. Think about why. Why did they do that? Was it because they actually felt like what they were doing was immoral, and they needed to go home and apologize to their parents or go to church and pray for forgiveness? Did they believe the government knew what was best for them? Or was it because they were afraid of the consequences if they didn't? And when you think about the whole situation of shoveling your neighbor's sidewalks, not immoral. In fact, helping people who are in need is a virtue, most people believe. Uh, Giving people money, right? It's not the homeowners weren't doing anything wrong by giving some money to some teenagers. Did the government know what was best for them? I don't think. I mean, I know the government doesn't know what's best for me. I'm quite certain the government doesn't know what's best for you. But it would be absurd for me to actually believe that the government does know what's best for you. How could I possibly know that? What about the fear of the consequences then? What would have happened if these teenagers hadn't obeyed? Right? I mean, a fine, yeah, probably. Would they have been arrested? Unlikely, or is it? Right? Because under every government, there's a progression of punishment, right? So there's a violation of any law places you somewhere along the punishment ladder. And the more severe the crime, the further up the ladder you begin. I mean, outside of like corruption within the system, things like that. So typically it looks like, you have like death at the top is the ultimate penalty. Then you might have a long prison sentence, then a shorter prison sentence, and then a monetary fine, maybe a written warning, and then a verbal warning. And you can end up with combinations of punishments, like a written fine along with uh, a warning, or a fine along with a prison sentence. But implicit in each punishment is an additional threat. So not only is the initial crime a crime, but refusing to comply with the punishment is also a crime, which automatically escalates you to a higher level on the ladder. So our intrepid heroes, or obviously ethnic thugs, depending on your perspective, if instead of heeding the verbal warning by the donut jockey had continued to shovel sidewalks, what would have happened? Right, because regardless of whether or not the crime of shoveling snow is actually a crime, meaning it infringes on the rights of others, the police officer can't let his warning go unheeded, so he would write them a ticket. Now, what if they tear the ticket up and throw it away? What happens next? Right? Maybe they write another ticket, they tear it up. He writes another ticket, they tear it up. Eventually, he's going to arrest them. Right? What if they resist arrest? Well, if they're lucky, maybe they just get tased and a light beating before being hauled away in handcuffs to spend a few days in jail before going to trial for resisting arrest. A charge which is completely unrelated to the original crime of shoveling snow. And of course, if they're unlucky, so many people are these days, they don't get tased and a beating, they just get shot. And that's why, when most of us are faced with a law that we know is wrong, we're still going to obey it, right? Because we understand, because of the way the system is set up, that ultimately, regardless of the severity of the supposed crime, the law enforcement officer is willing to use anything up to and including lethal force to carry out its enforcement. And the law enforcement officer knows that those he's held accountable to will support that use of force to the end. Now, some might say that it's not the base law they're willing to kill to enforce, but their authority in general. It's not stop shoveling snow or I'll kill you. It's obey me or I'll kill you. As though that's any better. Because police officers they somehow have special dispensation that allows them to morally make that threat? If I make that threat, I'm a psychopath, right? If we're all born equal, why can he make that threat and I can't? Government can't give him that right. Like, you can't delegate a right to a group or a person, whatever, that you don't have yourself. right? It's not his job that does it, right? Because I'm only following orders, right? Because that's all he's doing, right? He's just enforcing the law. I'm only following orders is not a valid reason to commit immoral behavior. The Nuremberg principles pretty much bear that out very clearly. Immoral behavior is immoral regardless of who told you how to do it. So what about does his right come from the people through like the social contract? No, that's impossible. There's no such thing as a social contract. I'll put a link to my blog post that I wrote about it below if you want more details on my explanation of that. So when is it moral to threaten someone's life? And because this is the point that's critical to understand, right? Because every law is based on the threat of lethal force. It is backed by a threat of lethal force. So when lawmakers vote for a law, they're saying, we feel so strongly about this law that we're willing to pay someone to use lethal force against you if you don't obey it. And if you support a law, you're saying, I feel so strongly about this law that I'm willing to commission others to use lethal force against you if you do not obey it. And if you're enforcing a law, you're saying, I feel so strongly about this law that I'm willing to use lethal force against you if you don't obey it. So if you're a voter, think carefully the next time you lobby your lawmaker for a law prohibiting behavior because you are morally culpable for your support. And if you're a lawmaker, think carefully the next time you vote for a law that prohibits behavior because you are morally culpable for your vote. And most importantly, if you're a law enforcement officer, think carefully the next time you enforce a law that prohibits behavior. Ask yourself, is it moral to threaten someone with lethal force in this instance? If I wasn't a cop and I put a gun to this person's head to force them to stop doing this thing, would it be moral? And if the answer is no, then it's not moral for you now either.